Hi, I'm Mark Costello, CEO of Meshed. Meshed is a new insurtech startup looking to build new products in the commercial market to make SMEs' lives easier, more efficient, and save them money, and ultimately provide a new solution for a new breed of customer as the industry evolves with the technology that's out there and society moves on. Some of you who are watching this, and unless you're my mum, you must be interested in insurance if you're watching this, will maybe know me. I was the ex-chief exec of Hub, which became Tavio, which was a startup that I built similar to this, but more focused on fleet. We're kind of in beta at the moment and don't really want to talk too much about the markets we're thinking about. But here we are in our inaugural podcast, which we'll hope to do one a month or something like that over the next period. Some of that focused on risk, some of it focused on startup life, and all other subjects in between. Today, in our inaugural podcast, we thought we'd start with a bang, and we want to introduce our first investor, which is Aviva, who've invested in us through Founders Factory. Now I'm going to hand over to Arslan, who's going to explain why Aviva invested in Meshed.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you for having us on your inaugural podcast. It's great to be here and to be your first investor, which we're very excited about. So we invested in partnership with Founders Factory, which is a partnership that we love. Thanks to Claire over there for sort of finding you guys and sort of identifying it and sort of bringing them into the fold. Look, it's pretty simple from our perspective. Like, we always want to be on the leading edge of enabling our customers to protect themselves as much as they possibly need to and can, right? In order to do that, we need to keep finding the latest and the brightest and thinking about how they're going to be thinking about evolving the industry and how they can provide better, solutions to customers and the right level of insurance. And we should nearly be trying a lot of different things all the time. So for us, it's a core part of what we do is try to push the boundary and try to see where we can help the customers more and help them protect themselves better. Yeah. But then also, we can't just think about that. We also have to think about the founding team, the idea, the quality of the founders. And of course, with you and the team and Jake, we have a lot of confidence that you guys understand insurance and you know what you're thinking about and you know what you're talking about, and that you can supplement it with the right kind of technology and the right kind of agility to do some cool stuff. So that's why it was pretty easy for us to get on board.
That's good that you mentioned the team, because I think that a lot of people in the insurtech space are trying to build technology-led or technology-enabled businesses. They struggle with VCs because VCs want to see businesses that are always technology first. How do you think about that when you're thinking about investing in insurtechs?
Yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't be able to comment on the VCs, right? There's different types and yeah, there's different VCs out there. Some of them dear friends and partners of ours. Yeah. When I think about investing in sort of earlier, or when we think about it, earlier insurance businesses, the key is insurance business. Yeah. If we can find people who understand insurance and understand how it works and what the customers need and the products and all the complexities attached to it, with brilliant tech and agility, that's the goal. Rather than going tech first, for us, it's about insurance first. Insurance can be simple, but it's also complex. It takes a long-term view, right? You need to have a lot of patience. You need to think about your customers very, very carefully. There's, you're selling, liability is tough to hold, right? So you need to do it with a sense of responsibility. So we try to think about, is this a team that can actually understand and solve for some things in insurance, supplemented or backed by good tech and agility and the right kind of sort of investors, and that's what makes sense to us.
Yeah, I mean, I almost see my role as guiding the tech guys through that old world piece and making them understand where the tech is most appropriate and building the right things at the right time. Yeah. And I think that tech is our everyday lives in the last 20 years have been completely transformed, right? Smartphones have replaced almost everything. We don't hail cabs anymore. People don't carry credit and debit cards. They just use their phone. Tech is changing everything. But I think the best tech is the tech that ultimately the customer doesn't see too much of, or it's not evasive. They don't have to think about the technology. That's my view in the tech.
Look, I think fundamentally, I don't disagree with you. I would think of there's tech that large insurers are dealing with and they're doing really well with, but like think about migrating big policy systems like cloud migration, stuff like that, which is really, really important and essential for the future. But then there's the tech that you're talking about, which is how does the customer perceive it and how easy is it to access and how relevant is it? And I think you're spot on. I think it nearly needs to be invisible of how, and part of that is, user experience enabled by tech. Some of it is about understanding the customer better enabled by tech. Some of it is serving the options and the policies and the ability to get the right level of insurance and cover in the easiest way. But on those points, I'm totally with you.
Yeah, so the way that we think about technology is first and foremost, like you're saying, we build something that the customer, it's intuitive, they can use it, it makes their life marginally better at the front end of it. But then when you bring it back into like the underwriting world, we're also thinking about what can we do there? How do we take data and make that data more manageable, usable, and how do we take that and give the customer not only that better customer experience at the front end, but actually better cover and better risk management and all of those things. And I think it's obvious that technology is going to help drive that. And Jason, you've been an underwriter for
many years.
Many years. And how do you think about what technology can deliver to underwriting?
I think for me, and we've touched on it, the important thing is to really understand customer problems. I mean, technology is great, but there are many ideas and concepts in the market that have fallen short because they've not addressed real customer problems. And I think some of the challenges that customers continue to face is the uncertainty, as we've talked about, regarding the policy cover, some of the challenges regarding the questions and the information they need to give. The agility of how companies are evolving means that increasingly their sums insured aren't keeping pace, and indeed their cover's not keeping pace with the contract. We saw over the pandemic some of the challenges that customers face around updating their policies and engaging with brokers. So I think for me, the key aspect of data is to create a seamless connectivity that customers can realise, and ideally, as we've talked about, create an emotional attachment, can understand the value, demystify the complexity that insurance sometimes brings, and gives them the confidence and ultimately an informed choice over the decisions that they've made and their acceptance of the consequences. Anything that enables them to have more confidence in the policy and the relationships and the discussions that they've had is absolutely vital. And technology is paramount in delivering that.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that the way we think about things is the customer ready for this new digital age? And my insight is I think they are, but I don't know if Aviva have any insights as to how they think about that.
We're increasingly seeing customers of varying ages and business ranges that are wanting to embrace data and technology in order to understand the value and the reality of how their insurance folds and develops. Certainly we've seen younger MDs. I think the latest stats, something like 45% of new MDs are between the ages of 25 and just under 40. And certainly they have and understand the concept of digital connectivity. They're doing that as part of their own businesses in terms of how they are engaging with their customers, how they're finding leads and how they're managing their business. And perhaps that's sometimes changing the dynamic a bit that they've got with the brokers where they don't necessarily need to see a broker face to face. But perhaps where they want to go is in an environment where they actually have a broker contact them at a time that's convenient, almost reacting to some of the changes that might occur in the business. So we're undoubtedly seeing a sea change. It is taking time that customers have around embracing data and technology in order to change the relationship that they have with their insurances.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think actually one of the big drivers to business owners think insurance differently, is that the way they engage with their accountant has completely transformed.
Digital accountancy is now pretty second nature.
That's what they do. They're on QuickBooks or Xero or any one of those platforms. So they interact with their accountant when it suits them, and then the accountant gets back through the same platform, gives them what they need. And, you know, because I think, in my experience being a broker of 25 years, the one thing that really drives customer dissatisfaction, I think, is the not knowing. So it's like claims. They have a claim, they phone their broker, they submit a claim. Their broker's doing a great job in getting the claim sorted out in the back end. But the broker then doesn't know, well, when do I let them know about this? When do I let them know about that? So they don't let them know about anything. And then the customer's chasing, saying, well, where are we with that? If you've just got that electronic feed where you can see that the wheels are in motion, because I think most people are reasonable, they have a claim, they don't expect it to be resolved in an hour or a day or whatever, depending on the complexity of the claim. But it's the not knowing is the problem. And giving them that digital ecosystem where they can see what's going on in the back end, it just takes away that uncertainty. And, what also is driven from that is the broker spends a lot less time dealing with unnecessary phone calls.
Also, to your point, like, I mean, it's a good trigger for MDs of SMEs to think about their insurance when these events happen and it's happening in the background. For example, if somebody adds an employee or starts a different kind of activity, it's nice as an MD to know that actually I'm in a system where they will poke at me and say, hey, you should think about your level of cover. Maybe you have the right stuff. Maybe everything is good to go, but something has changed. It's good for you to rethink about it with your broker and discuss it and think about if there's any changes to be made. And I think that's a really nice thing, right? Like, it's like being proactive and trying to say, you said giving people confidence. So that means we can be proactive in helping them think about, do you have the right level to keep that confidence?
I think for me, it's probably a little bit of a difference between service and experience. And let's be clear, experience is something that customers engage with in terms of a brand end to end. And I think that's the money shot. It's the new battleground that I think every company, every industry is trying to focus on. How can we continue to give customers end to end a really great experience and avoiding a situation where they've got to worry about certain things. Have I told someone, or indeed surprises at midterm or at renewal, and the delay. I mean, I don't see a great future in an environment where customers have to wait a week, 2 weeks for a response to an email. That doesn't seem to me to be like the future of any industry, let alone the insurance industry. I mean, so the rising expectations on the back of the immediacy that increasingly customers are wanting in any connectivity that they've got across their value chain is something that we should focus on. So experience is the way to go, and anything that gives them that seamless understanding and confidence that they can move forward is where we should move to.
Yeah, it's that old saying, and my co-founder in my last business, Ed, used to say, we always need to be good and then be gone, right? That's what service looks like in the modern world. And I think it's not just a new generation of younger people that are experiencing that, right? I mean, my dad's like 70, an old guy. Better not watch this, but he taps and pays for everything now. He's not waiting. He's not going to the bank to take out money. Like, his world has evolved. And the reason why products like Apple have been successful is because when it works, it's just utterly seamless.
A great experience in their instant. So I think immediacy is a key area that we should have a high level of dissatisfaction around, and how we support customers get faster answers with more insight. That's a big step up for our industry, because we do work on email. I'm not saying that the future of email is poor, but we need to rely less on it, I think, in terms of a key mode of connectivity and communication.
The other thing I think about with this business and my last is that how do we win customers? Because ultimately, I think insurance is the greatest invention of capitalism, right? I am an insurance nerd, right? I love it. But I think that a lot of people that run SMEs go off insurance, right? We need to get rid of that. And I think one of the things that, and we all do this in life, right? We psychologically allocate ourselves a time period to deal with things. And when you show up at somebody's door and you're saying, what's the name of your company? What's your turnover, your wage roll? By the time you get to the questions that are actually important about the risk in that business, they've switched off.
Yeah.
So one of the things we think about is how much of that proprietary data about that company can we scrape and know that the veracity of it is good, so that we can say, we're not asking you to spell your postcode and you'd give us your turnover, your wage roll. Can we scrape all of that data? Then we can talk about risk. And I think that shifts the goalposts a bit. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we've been in a situation where we should really only ask customers two types of questions. Customers they can easily answer, and questions they can access information to easily answer. So I think anything that avoids them having to be confused over question sets or indeed information that may be out of date is definitely going to support what they need. I think, ultimately the pursuit of perfection is where customers can crack on with doing what they need to do, but when they need to speak to someone, whether it be via email or over the phone or any form of media connectivity, they can do so. But we are moving into an environment where increasingly customers are feeling increasingly confident to self-serve. And we need to recognise that more and provide a model alongside that enables them to have a conversation with a human being at a time and at a point that is convenient to them, which adds value and doesn't respond to failure. And at the moment, we're probably a little bit too much in the latter. I need to speak to someone when things go wrong. Well, okay, that's the reality of some of the challenges we face today. But let's move that into a point where we speak to someone where they add value, and they can do so very seamlessly, and they can provide all the personalisation, which is, I know where you are in the journey, I know what your challenges are, I know what you need to do next, I'm here to help you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think there's lots and lots of stuff that just needs to be digitised, and it's like we get to the point where the customer speaks to a risk engineer when they need help. They're not phoning up to say, I ordered a new whatever it was a week ago, where is it? That all needs to be eviscerated.
Yeah. For sure.
So you've been an underwriter for a long time. How do you think this data and how do you think it'll evolve underwriting in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I believe that where we can demonstrate value as an industry or in indeed our products and proposition, customers are increasingly wanting to share value. I don't think we should take that for granted. So I don't think customers are going to want to just openly share everything that they know and operate in their business unless we fundamentally change or develop the proposition. But I think where we demonstrate value, they are going to increasingly want to share that information in order to have an increasing level of, as I said, confidence and a faster outcome and a high level of personalisation. So omni-channel is obviously a well-phrased comment that exists in the market. Having a 360 view of the customer where they don't have to provide the same information time and time again, agnostic of the platform or the route of distribution that they come in. They want to be recognised instantly with the information that's available. So how we actually take that information and almost consolidate it into a view that if you do swap between parties, they immediately understand that point in the journey you're on and they can have a conversation. So I think we need to look at, as I said before, experience and the experience that we give to customers. We need to look at the proposition. But I feel that the future of customers sharing data is a good one, but we can't take it for granted. I think we need to possibly look at changing the product and the proposition, and indeed sometimes the model, where I do see self-serve together with brokers coming and providing that seamless integration of people and technology. I think we're on a good, bright future for customers.
I agree.
That value thing you said is so important, right? It's like, what's the value that you're providing for requesting that data? Just a small anecdote and an example. So my younger brother, he lives here in London. He's renting. I'm his guarantor. But when he was doing it, I got a link from the agency saying, connect here with your open banking, and you don't have to fill out a form.
Yeah.
Now that for me, in terms of value, was massive because otherwise I'm printing a PDF, filling out all sorts of forms with all sorts of details, doing pay slips and whatnot, and then sending it back. But that was one button. Now, do I feel comfortable sharing my open banking data with anybody? Absolutely not. Right? It's something that obviously I think of trying to keep as secure as possible and keep as personal as possible. But the value here was so much for me at that point that I said yes. So I think we need to start thinking that way. It's like that value doesn't always have to be price.
Yes.
Or it doesn't have to be, the value can come in. We understand the changes that you've made and we're proactive about it, or that we can make life that much quicker for you, or we can make servicing that much easier for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you run an SME, and I have run an SME, there is two things that are more valuable than money, and that's your time and certainty, right? And if we can provide contracts that are more certain, because I think that a lot of the contracts still in the market, you're like, yeah, if I've got two lawyers to explain that to me, I might be all right. So that's something that we need to get better at as an industry. But it's the time thing. Time is everything if you run an SME. I'll give you an example of the reverse of what you had. When we were setting up my previous venture, we done it in the middle of the pandemic, right? So we were all working from home. I was living in Cheshire at the time. My brother, who was part of the business, was living in Glasgow, and Ed, the other co-founders, living in Kent. And one of the insurers wouldn't accept a digitally signed TOBA. It had to be done in wet ink. So we had to post that from Manchester to Kent, Kent to Glasgow, and then back to that insurance company.
Stone Age.
And you're like, it's those types of things. And like, we talk about the new world. I actually think, and there was nothing good about the pandemic, but I do think it has sped up where that journey takes us to.
Yeah, and I think, as I go back to experience, is that the reality is increasingly customers are wanting the convenience of Amazon in terms of the experience, and obviously the depth and breadth of Google. And unfortunately, those are just table stakes now. Yeah. So, and if I look at the insurance industry and I kind of compare it to the experience that those service providers offers customers, we have got some way to go. So, but look, as I say, I think we need to stand up to be counted together with brokers to ensure that we support customers in a different way. I think their expectations are absolutely stratospheric in terms of how they expect things to work from pretty much every other industry that is looking to focus on data and technology and people, and how we augment data to make our people the best versions of themselves and to give them the support to the customers, which we know that they do. But it's certainly a challenge for customers in terms of how they embrace insurance. But I am optimistic, and I think I will anticipate probably the next 5 years. And I appreciate comments like this have been made time and time again. If you believe that AGI, artificial and general intelligence will be achieved by 2030, effectively the capability of large language models to replicate any intellectual capability of human being, we have got to get our skates on in terms of how we develop our industry, for sure.
Well, we're already thinking about that a lot, and some of the things that you can get it to do already.
Copilot is a really good example. Any large language models are pretty good in terms of how you ask questions in natural language, rather than just search for stuff in sitting over spreadsheets, and just ask a question and you'll get an answer back.
Yeah, and it's just about getting the architecture right to make sure that works.
It needs to be done safely, for sure.
Yeah, and it is all very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with Aviva and Meshed going forward, and I'd just like to thank everybody that watches us, and wish everybody a very successful new year ahead.